a rigged economy where the rich get richer and everybody else get poorer.
We lose at every single facet.
Longer hours for lower wages.
We're going to bring jobs back to our country.
Disastrous trade policy.
Jobs are going down the drain.
Shut down plants in Flint and move to China and Mexico.
They go to Mexico, they're going to China. NAFTA.
Corrupt campaign finance system.
Bought and sold by their special interests.
The American people have a right to be angry.
We've had it. We've now had it.
This is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Okay, wait. But why are Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump giving the exact same speech while they're essentially from different political parties?
That is a very interesting question, June. Actually, the answer is very, very simple. That's because they're both populists. However, we will show you that they also have some left and right-wing differences. As for the structure of this presentation, by the end of it you should be able to understand what is populism, what are some of the major economic, political and social causes of the rise of modern populism, what's the difference between right-wing and left-wing populism, and also to conclude and answer some of our discussion questions. So, what is populism? We'll start by having a look at its history, and we concluded that it has a Latin root, so the word populus, which means people. However, it is not possible to fully unpack the meaning and history of the term, or even to do justice to all examples in such a short video. Therefore, we'll focus on modern populism, which is loosely defined and as post-World War II, mainly focusing on the last 2 to 3 decades. It is a very hard term to define, and in fact, in 1967, dozens of academics gathered at the London School of Economics with the purpose of defining populism, which they failed. So, therefore, we found a very interesting and possible definition for modern populism. It states that populism is a thin, centered ideology that considers society to be ultimately separated into two homogeneous and antagonistic camps, so two opposite sides, the pure people versus the corrupt elite, and which argues that politics should be an expression of the general will of the people. Having this in mind, we think it's important to define some key elements for both right-wing populism and left-wing populism. All of the following are common for both. First, we have the people, who are inherently good. Then we have the elite, that is usually seen as corrupt. And another very important trademark of populism is a charismatic leader. Usually claims to speak to or for the people, as we've seen previously with Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, whilst attacking also his opponents and denouncing institutions. This leads ultimately to the classic accusation: elites putting themselves, corporations or immigrants over the people's interests. Then we also have 5 key ideological elements. We have attacking the elites, emphasizing sovereignty of the people, advocating for the people, ostracizing others, and invoking at the heartland. All of these characteristics are common for both left-wing parties and right-wing parties.
Thank you, Professor. Now I understand what populism is and some of its key features. But I want to ask, what may be the cause of populism, and what are the differences between the left-wing and right-wing populism we just mentioned?
Wow, June, that's another excellent question, which I will try to explain for you. We'll spend a little more time on this slide, but if afterwards you have any doubts, then don't hesitate to consult or carefully construct a follow-up report on this topic. In general, populism is on the rise because the common people feel that their interests are not represented enough anymore by their governments. This feeling, however, has multiple causes, as we will explain. The first cause is the current political system that has been widely adopted. It is called neoliberalism, and it tries to sell its ideas as if there is no alternative. We call this TINA, there is no alternative. However, the common people don't accept this. They feel that currently they do not benefit from this political system. So what do? They follow new leaders that promise them to bring change to this system. The belief of the common people in this failing political system has been strengthened in the last decades by economic disasters like the 2008 financial crisis. The common people feel that they paid for the mistakes of the corrupt institutions and the ignorant government. These events reinforce the feeling of the corrupt elite versus the common people, which is the foundation of populism. Thirdly, we have the force of globalization. It gives the common people a feeling that they are left behind, because they are losing their jobs to low-wage countries due to globalization. Both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump mentioned this in the video at the beginning of this video. These charismatic leaders promised to bring back jobs to the people, and that they will do this at the cost of the corrupt elite, which sprouts a lot of support. Lastly, we have a concept that resonates well with the common people, especially important in right-wing populism. It is addressing the loss of identity and culture. The charismatic leaders tell the people to stand up for what they believe in and who they are, while they promise to strengthen the immigration policies, creating support for them. So in the end, we identified 4 major causes for the currently witnessed rise of modern populism. Let's put the theory aside for a moment and look at some examples of populism throughout the world. The 2 most famous examples are, of course, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, who both ran for president of the United States. Both are populists, although they occupy different places along the political spectrum. Bernie Sanders is a left-wing populist, while Donald Trump is a right-wing populist, and these differences will be explained on the next slide. Some other examples in the world of right-wing populists are Viktor Orban, who is the current Prime Minister of Hungary, Jörg Haider, who has been a very controversial figure in Austria, Erdogan, who most people also will know, who has been the president of Turkey since 2014, and Narendra Modi, who is the current Prime Minister of India. Lastly, we have a left-wing populist in Spain called Pablo Iglesias, who has been the Minister of Social Rights during 2020 and 2021. These examples confirm that populism is definitely on the rise, as more and more populistic leaders are occupying high-level political functions. So this leads us to the final piece of theory that you should know about populism: the difference between left-wing and right-wing populism. Even though they both have a lot of similarities, they also have distinct features. Here I will talk about 3 aspects: their political orientation, what they define as the people and the elite, and their success over the past decades. Left-wing populism, often also called social populism, adopts more traditional left-wing views. They focus on the negative effects of capitalism and globalization that only benefits the rich and not the common people. They place the value of human life above all else, which leads them to advocate minority rights and oppose militarism. This brings me to who the left-wing populism see as the corrupt elite, which are actually the business elite that is getting richer and richer, while the common people suffer from this capitalism and globalization. Right-wing populism, also called national populism or right-wing nationalism, follows views that are traditionally associated with being right on the political spectrum. It places a lot of importance on the nation's power to make its own decisions, which is why they often oppose international organizations and institutions. 2 key examples of this are the Brexit and the USA's withdrawal of the Paris Agreement. By placing the nation first, the right-wing populists advocate strong immigration limitations. As a result, right-wing populists see the politicians and bureaucrats of the government as the corrupt elite, because they disband or impose rules that do not benefit the common people. It only benefits themselves. The 2 last important distinctions between left and right-wing populism is that the charismatic leaders in the left wing speak for the people, while charismatic leaders in the right wing speak to the people. Lastly, the success of left-wing populism has been limited in comparison to the success of right-wing populism in the last decades, as we have seen with the examples. So June, I hope this was very clear for you and you have some main takeaways, because this will definitely be on the exam.
Thank you, professors. After this really insightful lecture, I do gain some key takeaways on the issue of populism. So first of all, populism is hard to define, but we can often describe it as the conflict between the people and the elite. And also, the rise of modern populism is closely related to the historical cultural context and the modern global economic developments. And last but not least, nowadays, right-wing populism is more successful than left-wing populism.